My daughter sent me a text that nearly brought me to tears. Dad, I really want you at my school play this Friday. I left work early, bought her flowers, spent an hour adjusting my camera so I could capture every moment of her big night. But when I got to the auditorium, there was no sign of her. Not on stage, not in the program. Confused, I asked the teacher where she was. She smiled and said, "Oh, she performed yesterday. Her mom was here." I stood there, stunned, holding flowers for a performance I was never meant to see. And in that moment, I realized my daughter didn't forget to tell me the truth. She was taught not to. What happened next was rather unexpected. I will tell you everything. First, let me thank you for your continuous support. If you love stories like this one, support us by subscribing to this channel and comment where you're watching us from. It will be great to hear from you. Now let's jump into the details of what happened. I still remember the exact moment the text came through. It was a gray Monday afternoon, one of those quiet stretches at work where the coffee had gone cold and the emails were slowing to a trickle. I was leaning back in my chair, scrolling through the same 3 news sites on repeat, more out of habit than curiosity, when my phone buzzed. The screen lit up with her name, Lily, and that alone was enough to make my heart jump a little. It's strange, the way certain people can make you feel everything with just a name on a screen. My daughter wasn't a frequent texter. Not with me, anyway. At 14, she was deep into that stage where her world revolved around friends, Instagram, and a level of sarcasm that could slice through steel. Our conversations, when they happened, were usually one-word check-ins. Yeah, fine, I guess. So when I saw her message, full of actual words and a clear request, it felt like sunlight cracking through a long winter. Dad, I really want you at my school play this Friday. 8 words. That's all it took. And somehow, I sat there staring at them for a full minute, like they might disappear if I blinked. I didn't even hesitate. I messaged back right away. Wouldn't miss it for the world. What time? She replied quickly, which already told me something. When Lily wanted to respond, she could be quicker than any corporate Slack message. That, to me, meant this mattered. Starts at 6. Get there early. It's going to be packed. And just like that, I was grinning like an idiot in my office chair. I turned back to my desk and opened my calendar, heart beating in a rhythm I hadn't felt in too long. I canceled my 4 p.m. call, emailed my assistant to reschedule Friday's wrap-up meeting, and cleared my entire evening. Hell, I even blocked out extra time so I could stop and grab flowers on the way. I hadn't seen her on stage since elementary school, and the idea that she wanted me there, me, not just her mom, felt like a gift I wasn't expecting. That night, I pulled out my DSLR from the closet. It had gathered dust since our last family vacation, back when we still took those, but it still worked fine. I charged the battery, cleaned the lens, and even watched a few YouTube videos on low-light theater photography. I wanted to get it right. I wanted her to have pictures of this night that weren't blurry phone shots or crooked from the back row. If she'd trusted me with this, I was going to show up 110%. And maybe, I told myself, this was a turning point. Since the divorce, our rhythm had been off. I got her every other weekend, some holidays, the occasional Wednesday dinner when schedules allowed. But there was a distance, one I could never quite cross. Her mom, Amanda, had the lion's share of time. And Amanda wasn't exactly known for encouraging closeness between Lily and me. There were always subtle digs. You know how busy your dad is. Or maybe ask him if he even remembers the date. She had a way of making my presence feel like an option rather than a necessity. But that text, it felt like a crack in the wall. Maybe Lily was realizing that I wanted to be there. That I wasn't the version of me Amanda painted in offhand comments and rolled eyes. Friday couldn't come fast enough. The week dragged on like molasses. Every spare moment, I thought about the play. I imagined her in costume, imagined the lights going down, imagined her looking into the crowd and spotting me with my ridiculous camera. I even debated getting her a card, something cheesy with a glittery star on it, like she was 5 again. I didn't, but the thought lingered. By Thursday night, I was nervous in a way I hadn't been since her 5th grade piano recital. Back then, she'd walked onto the stage in a little blue dress and waved so hard her bracelet flew off into the front row. I still remembered how her cheeks flushed with embarrassment and how I'd stood up clapping so she wouldn't feel alone. That was the kind of memory that stayed lodged in your chest like a splinter, sharp but warm. Friday afternoon, I left the office early. Told my team I had a family event. They didn't ask questions. I swung by the florist on 5th and picked out a small bouquet. Nothing too flashy, just yellow tulips and a few white daisies. Lily hated roses, said they were try-hard. I also grabbed a bottle of water and a protein bar, because I knew I'd forget to eat once I got there. I wanted nothing to distract me. By 5:15, I was pulling into the school parking lot. The sun was low, casting long shadows across the field. Cars were already lined up along the curb, and parents were walking in with younger siblings trailing behind them, half bouncing with excitement. I slung my camera around my neck, grabbed the flowers, and headed toward the entrance. There was that familiar smell inside, the one all school buildings seemed to have. A mix of pencil shavings, stale popcorn, and floor cleaner. It hit me like nostalgia always did, sudden and sentimental. I made my way to the auditorium, heart hammering a little harder now. I took a seat in the 5th row, center aisle. Prime spot. I even asked the woman next to me if the seat beside her was taken, just to give myself space to stand for photos. She smiled and said, "You must be proud." I smiled back, too choked up to answer right away. I opened the program, and I froze. I scanned it once, then again. Then again. My eyes darted down every list. Cast, crew, student directors. No Lily. Not her name, not her character, nothing. I checked the date on the front. Thursday, November 9th. My throat tightened. I leaned toward the woman next to me and asked, trying to sound casual, "Hey, this says Thursday. Is this the same performance as yesterday?" She tilted her head. "Oh no, yesterday was the big night. This is just a cast meet and greet. They're showing behind-the-scenes footage and talking about their process." Her words landed like bricks in my chest. I stood up and stepped into the aisle, my legs moving on autopilot. I spotted a teacher by the side door, Ms. Reynolds, if memory served. She'd been Lily's drama teacher since middle school. "Excuse me," I said, forcing calm into my voice. "I'm looking for Lily Brennan. I thought she was performing tonight." The teacher's face softened. "Oh, Lily was wonderful yesterday. Really stole the scene. You must be her dad." I nodded slowly, the weight of it crashing down in full. "She performed yesterday," I repeated, the words tasting bitter in my mouth. "Yes," she said, her tone warm but final. "Her mom was here. She brought cupcakes for the crew." Such a thoughtful gesture. I nodded again, but it wasn't a yes. It was the only thing I could do to keep my face from breaking. "Thanks," I muttered. And then I walked out. I don't remember walking back to my car. I mean, I know I did. It was still parked in the same spot under the crooked oak tree near the staff lot. But everything between leaving that auditorium and gripping the steering wheel is just a blur. A haze. I could hear my footsteps on the pavement, I think. The crumple of the plastic wrap around the flowers in my hand. The weight of my camera swinging against my chest, useless now. Pointless. I got into the car and just sat there. Not turning the key. Not even adjusting the seat. Just sitting. The flowers were on the passenger seat, and I looked at them like they were a joke. Tulips and daisies. Bright and open, the way I wanted to be for her. But they were meaningless now. I had bought them for a girl who stood on a stage I never saw, on a night I wasn't told existed. And it wasn't a mistake. That's what gnawed at me. What really began to tear something loose inside. This wasn't an accidental slip-up. This wasn't a wrong date scrawled on a calendar or a rushed teenager forgetting details. Lily had texted me. She had given me a specific day. Friday at 6. She had made it sound urgent. Important. She knew I'd show up. She knew. And she sent me anyway. To the wrong night. The empty night. The kind of betrayal that comes from someone you love doesn't hit like a punch. It hits like gravity. Quiet, relentless, heavy. It just pulls and pulls until you're hollow in places you didn't know could be empty. I stared at my phone. I didn't open it. Didn't go to our text thread. What was I going to do? Send a question mark. Type out, "Why would you do this?" And wait for an answer I probably wouldn't like? No, I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready for the version of my daughter who could lie to my face, sweetly, deliberately, like she was doing me a favor. But I needed to understand. Because as angry as I was, anger was easier than heartbreak. And right then, I was heartbroken. Not because I missed a school play, but because somewhere between joint custody and supervised weekends and Amanda's careful rewrites of our shared history, I had become optional, an accessory to my own daughter's life, a backup parent who could be benched for convenience. And the worst part? I had no idea if Lily even felt bad. I sat there for a long time, long enough that the parking lot emptied, long enough that the orange light of sunset gave way to street lights flickering on. At one point, someone knocked gently on my window. It was a janitor, just doing a sweep, making sure the place was cleared out. I waved him off with a tight smile and started the engine, because what else was there to do? I drove home in silence. No music, no podcast, just the hum of the road and the occasional thump of the flowers sliding across the seat when I turned too sharply. At a red light, I finally picked up my phone. Still no message from Lily. No missed call. No, hey, did you make it? She wasn't wondering where I was. She knew exactly where I'd be. I unlocked the screen and scrolled back to the text. Her original message. I stared at it for a long time. My thumb hovered over it, debating whether to reply now, ask the question I hadn't yet formed. But then I saw the 3 dots. She was typing. My chest tightened. Was she going to admit it? Apologize? Tell me her mom had pressured her? Tell me she was sorry and she just didn't know how to say no? But the dots disappeared. Then nothing. That empty space where a message should have been. It almost hurt more than anything she could have said. When I got home, I set the flowers down on the kitchen counter like they were leftovers. I kicked off my shoes, peeled off the camera strap, and stood in the middle of the room wondering what the hell I was supposed to do with all this emotion. It didn't have a direction yet. It was just rising, hot and raw and shapeless. I poured a glass of water, stared at it, didn't drink it. My phone buzzed. I grabbed it so fast I nearly dropped it. It was Lily. Sorry, forgot it was Thursday. That was it. No punctuation. No emoji. No, I feel terrible. Or, did you still want to hang out after? Just a bland, text-messaged shrug of a sentence. And I knew right then, she wasn't just lying to me. She was lying to herself, too. She didn't forget. You don't forget the date of your own performance. You don't accidentally invite someone to the wrong night, especially when you've reminded them to get there early and it's going to be packed. No, this wasn't forgetfulness. This was planned, coordinated, approved by her mother. That last part one knew in my bones. Amanda had always been the master of soft sabotage. She didn't forbid Lily from seeing me. She didn't scream or threaten or refuse court orders. She just quietly made it harder for Lily to feel safe with me. Little things. Skipped calls. Guilt trips. Loaded silences. And I hadn't realized how deep it had gotten until tonight. She didn't block me. She made me irrelevant. I didn't reply to Lily's text. Not because I didn't have anything to say. God, I had so much to say, but because I knew anything I sent in that moment would be from the wrong place. Anger, hurt, impulse. And if I fired back now, all Amanda had to do was point at my message and say, see, he's unstable. He's dramatic. He makes you feel bad. I'd be playing right into it. So I said nothing. Instead, I walked to the fridge, pulled out a bottle of that overpriced craft beer I only bought when I was trying to feel like I hadn't completely lost control of my life, and sat on the couch. I turned on the TV. I let the images blur across the screen. And I felt every damn inch of that empty seat in the auditorium like it was still beneath me. I had shown up. I had prepared. I had made space. And they, had filled it with silence. There's a kind of silence that doesn't feel empty. It feels loud. Like every second that ticks by is screaming with what could have been said, what should have been said. That was the silence I sat in the next morning. Saturday's sunlight bled through the blinds, but it didn't warm anything. It just made the house feel more exposed. I'd barely slept, and when I did, it was that fitful, shallow kind of sleep where you dream about the very thing you're trying to escape. I kept seeing Lily on stage, dressed in some costume I'd never get to compliment, saying lines I'd never hear. In every version, she scanned the audience and smiled, right at someone else. Amanda. I woke up with that smile lodged in my chest like a knife. The flowers were still on the counter, wilted now. The water in the vase had gone cloudy, and the tulips were curling inward. I considered throwing them out, but stopped myself. Maybe I wasn't ready to let them go just yet. Maybe I needed the reminder. The proof that I'd tried. My phone sat face down on the coffee table. I hadn't looked at it since last night. I already knew what was there. Nothing. No follow-up from Lily. No apology. No real acknowledgement that something had happened at all. And I wanted to call her. God, did I want to call her? Not to yell. Not at first. Just to ask. Just to hear it from her voice. What happened? Did Amanda tell her not to invite me? Was she afraid I'd cause tension if I showed up? Or worse, was she just indifferent? Had I become so forgettable that my presence wasn't worth navigating the awkwardness? I picked up the phone. My thumb hovered over her name. I pictured her lying on her bed, probably scrolling through TikTok, earbuds in, phone resting on her chest. Maybe Amanda had already taken her out for pancakes. Maybe they were laughing about something. Maybe Lily wasn't thinking about me at all. I set the phone down again. Because the truth is, I didn't want a conversation. I wanted an admission. I wanted her to say it before I had to ask. To be honest with me, not because I dragged it out of her, but because she wanted to be. That's what broke me the most. This wasn't a fight. This was a fracture. Something subtle and deep that made me realize I had no idea what she really told me anymore. And worse, what she didn't. I tried to distract myself. Cleaned the kitchen. Took out the trash. Even went for a jog, which I hadn't done since last spring. But no matter how many miles I clocked, I couldn't run far enough from the echo of that auditorium. By mid-afternoon, I sat down with a notebook and wrote a letter. Not to send, just to write. Just to bleed it out. Dear Lily, I showed up. Not because I had to, but because I wanted to. Because you asked me. Because I thought maybe that was your way of reaching out. A soft olive branch in a long silence. But I was wrong, wasn't I? You already had your moment. And you chose not to include me in it. I don't know if that was your idea or your mother's. Or both. But it hurts just the same. I'm not mad because I missed a school play. I'm heartbroken because you didn't think I needed to be there. That you could just tell me a fake date and let me show up to an empty stage and go home none the wiser. That maybe I'd never find out. I found out. And now we both have to live with that. I closed the notebook. I didn't even sign it. The words had served their purpose. Later that evening, I went to the garage to dig out an old storage box where I kept pictures, real ones. Not digital files or saved social media posts, but printed photographs from when Lily was small. Back when our world felt whole. There was one picture I always lingered on. Lily, age 6, in a yellow princess dress, standing in the living room with a toy microphone. I had made her a cardboard stage, taped to the floor, and she'd performed Let It Go about 15 times in a row while I clapped after every single one. She made me promise not to look away, even for a second. And now I wondered if that little girl would even recognize the teenager she'd become. Or if I would. Around 9 that night, my phone buzzed. I didn't rush to it this time. I walked, slow and careful, like the message might bite me. It was Amanda. Lily told me you were upset. Don't make this about you. She's under a lot of pressure right now. I stared at that message like it was poison. Cold. Clinical. No apology. No accountability. Just a warning to stay in line. And that line, the one I'd been towing for years, was finally starting to crack beneath me. I didn't respond. Not to her. Not yet. But I needed someone to talk to. Someone who wasn't biased. Someone outside the situation. And that's when I remembered Claire. Claire was the mother of Lily's best friend, Hannah. We'd met at birthday parties and school events over the years. She was kind, no nonsense, and always had a way of seeing through the fog. We weren't close, but there'd always been a mutual respect there, especially when it came to parenting. I pulled up her contact, hesitated for half a beat, then texted. Hey Claire, random question. Do you know if the school play was Thursday night? Lily told me Friday. The dots popped up almost instantly. Yeah, it was Thursday. Hannah was in it too. We were there. Amanda came. Didn't see you. Thought you were working. I felt my stomach tighten. Lily told me it was Friday. I showed up. She wasn't there. There was a long pause. Then, oh wow. I'm sorry. I didn't realize. That's messed up. And then, do you want to talk? I'm around. For the first time all weekend, something in me cracked, but not in the way it had before. Not in anger. Not in grief. But in relief. Someone else saw it. Someone else knew I wasn't imagining things. So I called her, and I told her everything. Claire answered on the second ring. her voice already soft with concern. "Hey," she said. "Are you okay?" I hadn't expected the question to hit me as hard as it did. I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. I had rehearsed what I'd say. Something calm, some version of "I just needed clarity." But when I heard her voice, kind and unfiltered, the dam cracked. "I don't know," I said finally. "I think I got played by my own daughter." There was a pause, not a judgmental one. Just the kind where someone doesn't want to interrupt something raw. "She really told you it was Friday?" Claire asked, more gently now. "Yeah," I said, clear as day. Even told me to get there early. I showed up with flowers, camera, sat down in the 5th row, opened the program, and realized I'd missed the whole thing. Claire let out a slow breath. "God, I'm so sorry. That must have been awful." "Yeah, it was." I leaned against the kitchen counter and stared at the vase again. The tulips were slumped forward now, like they were grieving with me. But that's not the worst part. "What is?" "I don't think it was an accident. I think Amanda told her not to invite me, and Lily went along with it." Claire was quiet again, but this silence felt heavier, like she knew something and didn't know how to say it. "Claire," I said carefully, "if you know anything at all, I need you to be straight with me. I'm not going to start a fight. I need to know I'm not crazy." I could hear her shifting on the other end, probably walking away from wherever she'd been. "Okay," she said. "Listen, I didn't want to say anything because it's not really my place. But I saw how upset you looked Friday. Hannah mentioned it too. She said you looked confused, like you didn't know what was happening." I waited, heart thudding. "And then yesterday," Claire continued, "Hannah told me something I haven't been able to shake. She said Lily told her she wasn't allowed to tell you what night the play really was. That Amanda had said it would be simpler if it was just the one performance with her there." There it was. The truth, bare and unflinching. I didn't realize I'd stopped breathing until I let out a slow, shuddering exhale. "She said that?" I whispered. Claire's voice softened. "Yeah." And when Hannah asked why, Lily just kind of shrugged and said, "It's easier this way." Like she didn't want to fight it. I felt something inside me collapse. Not dramatically, not like a storm, just a quiet crumbling. The kind you feel when you realize this isn't just a mistake, it's a pattern. "She knew, Claire," I said. "She knew I'd show up. And she still let me walk into that auditorium like a fool." "She's a teenager," Claire said gently. "And she's stuck between two parents. It doesn't make it okay, but it might explain why she went along with it." "That's the thing," I said. "I'm not even sure she feels stuck. I think Amanda's made it so that siding with her isn't just easier, it's normal. Expected. I'm the disruption." Claire sighed. "I've seen it happen. More than once. Some moms, they play the long game. They don't badmouth you outright. They just plant these little seeds of doubt. And after a while, the kids start picking a side without realizing they've done it." It felt like someone had just read aloud a journal I didn't know I was writing. I sat down at the kitchen table and closed my eyes. "I'm so tired of feeling like a visitor in my own kid's life," I said. "You're not a visitor," Claire replied firmly. "You're a father. And even if Lily doesn't see that clearly right now, she will." I wanted to believe that. God, did I want to believe that? But belief wasn't enough. I needed a boundary. We talked for a little while longer. Claire offered to speak to Hannah again, not to dig, but to make sure Lily was okay too. "She's a good kid," she said. "But I think she's been taught to fear conflict more than dishonesty." That line stuck with me. To fear conflict more than dishonesty. Maybe that's what Amanda had done. Turned any potential friction into a landmine. Made honesty feel like disloyalty. After we hung up, I sat in the dark for a long time, just listening to the house creak. I thought about all the ways I tried to keep things civil over the years. All the concessions. All the missed holidays I didn't fight for because I didn't want Lily to feel caught in the middle. And maybe that had been my biggest mistake, trying so hard not to be the bad guy. I'd let someone else rewrite the script completely. I wasn't even on stage anymore. I was backstage. Off script. Forgotten. But not anymore. The next morning, I drafted an email to Amanda. Nothing hostile. Just precise. "Amanda, I'm aware that Lily's play was Thursday. She told me it was Friday." I showed up, prepared, and was humiliated. I've since spoken to another parent who confirmed what I suspected, that this decision was premeditated. that Lily was instructed not to tell me the truth. This isn't about a school event. This is about a pattern, one that's clearly eroding the trust between me and my daughter. I won't tolerate being excluded from key moments in Lily's life. If co-parenting means anything, it means transparency, even when it's inconvenient. Moving forward, I expect full schedules, accurate information, and no interference in my relationship with my daughter. This is not a threat. It's a boundary. Daniel, I didn't expect a warm reply, but I knew I had to reclaim my place in this story, even if I had to start with the truth no one wanted to admit. I didn't know how to prepare for the weekend, only that I needed to. After that email to Amanda, I received a curt reply, barely 3 lines long. Noted. Lily will be dropped off as scheduled. Please don't create unnecessary drama. She's still a child. That last line, she's still a child, as if that absolved everything. As if her being a child made it okay for Amanda to feed her a version of the world where honesty took a back seat to convenience. Still, I wasn't looking to fight. I didn't want to explode. But I wasn't going to pretend like nothing happened, either. Lily was being dropped off at 6 p.m. on Friday. I spent most of the day pacing. Not literally, but emotionally. You know that feeling when your body keeps trying to go somewhere, room to room, task to task, but your mind is spinning in the same 3 feet of space, over and over? That was me. Every dish I washed, every shelf I dusted, every drawer I opened, it all felt like part of some restless rehearsal. When the doorbell finally rang, I didn't rush to open it. I gave myself one long breath, then another. Then I opened the door. Lily stood there in a hoodie, earbuds looped around her neck, phone in hand. Her backpack slumped off one shoulder. Amanda wasn't even in the car anymore, just peeled out halfway down the street, like this was just another transaction. Hey, Lily said, not meeting my eyes. I stepped aside. Hey, come in. She walked past me and headed straight for her room. Her room, the one I'd painted with her when she was 10. Purple walls, old movie posters, books she didn't read anymore, but refused to let me donate. She dropped her bag and flopped onto the bed like it was any other weekend. But it wasn't, and we both knew it. I gave it about 20 minutes, just long enough for her to take a breath, maybe notice the shift in the air. Then I knocked on her door. Can we talk? She didn't answer right away. Then, okay. I walked in and sat on the edge of the bed, facing her. She was curled up, phone still in hand, but the screen was dark now. I want to talk about the play, I said. She shifted slightly, but didn't look at me. I know it was Thursday, I continued. I showed up on Friday with flowers and my camera. I waited in the audience. Your name wasn't in the program. Still silence. I talked to Ms. Reynolds. She said you were great. Said your mom brought cupcakes. Lily's lip twitched. Whether it was guilt or annoyance, I couldn't tell yet. I'm not mad that you performed on Thursday, I said. I'm hurt that you told me otherwise. I'm hurt that you let me show up like that. Alone, with no one to tell me the truth until I had to ask a stranger. She finally looked at me, and her eyes were already brimming. I didn't mean to hurt you, she whispered. Then why didn't you tell me? I asked. Why not just say, Dad, the show's Thursday, but Mom's making it hard? Or even, I want you there, but I'm scared of the fallout? She swallowed hard. Because she said it'd be easier. I nodded, trying to stay calm. Easier for who? For everyone, she said quickly. She said it'd just turn into a fight. She said you'd get upset, and I didn't want. I held up my hand, not to stop her, but to slow her. Sweetheart, I didn't get upset because you performed on Thursday. I got upset because you lied. You looked me in the eye and gave me a date you knew wasn't real. That's not on your mom. That's you. That choice belonged to you. Lily wiped at her eye, but didn't respond. I know it's hard, I said, my voice softening. I know your mom and I aren't exactly the blueprint for peace. But don't ever think protecting her feelings means you have to betray mine. I didn't mean to betray you, she said, voice cracking. But you did, I replied gently. And you didn't even call me afterward. You didn't ask if I made it. You didn't check to see if I was okay. That silence hurt more than the lie. She broke then, shoulders shaking. A full, quiet cry that she tried to hide behind her hands. I moved closer, rested a hand on her back. She didn't pull away. I wanted you there, she said, choking out the words. I did. I swear I did. But Mom made it feel like if you came, everything would be awkward, that people would stare, that I'd have to explain. And I didn't want it to be complicated. I get that, I said. But Lily, sometimes the right thing is complicated. Sometimes honesty is awkward. That doesn't mean it's wrong. She nodded slowly. I don't hate your mom, I added. I know she's important to you, and I'm not asking you to pick sides. But I need you to understand. I'm not going to keep playing this game where I only get half of you. I love you too much for that. Her voice was barely a whisper. I'm sorry. I forgive you, I said, and I meant it. But I'm going to need time. I'm still hurting. She nodded again. We sat there for a long while, her leaning into my shoulder now, both of us quiet. Not the kind of silence that crushes you, but the kind that lets the dust finally settle. That night, she didn't ask for the Wi-Fi password, didn't retreat into her phone. We made grilled cheese and watched a movie. Something dumb and funny, just background noise for the space between us starting to heal. Before bed, I gave her the flowers. They were half dead by now, petals browning at the edges. But I gave them to her anyway. She held them like they were fresh, and whispered, "Thank you." The next few weeks were quiet, but not the cold kind of quiet we'd fallen into before. This silence was warm, mutual, a breath between us instead of a wall. Lily didn't say much about the play again, and I didn't press her. Not because I'd forgotten, but because I could see something shifting in her. There was a softness to her now, an unspoken awareness that she'd crossed a line and didn't want to live on that side anymore. We didn't fix everything. That's the part no one tells you about healing. It doesn't come with a grand finale or a soundtrack. It comes in pieces, in smaller choices, in side comments and changed behavior. And I watched Lily start to make those choices one by one. The first Saturday, she came over after that night. She brought a canvas bag of books with her. No prompting, just walked in and said, I figured I could leave these here since I'm staying longer this weekend. A simple statement. But to me, it was everything. She was claiming space again, making herself visible, permanent. She started texting a bit more, sending memes, dumb videos, one-liner jokes she knew I'd get. It was her way of rebuilding without putting us both through the awkward theater of a second confrontation. I let her have that, but I didn't forget, because love and boundaries aren't opposites. They're siblings, and I'd spent too long letting mine get trampled in the name of keeping peace. About a month after the play, I got a text from her on a Thursday evening. Hey, I have an art show at school next week. Want to come? Just like that. No ambiguity. No coded language. She even attached the flyer and sent a calendar invite. As if to say, I'm not making the same mistake twice. I stared at that message longer than I needed to. Not because I doubted it, but because I felt the pull. That instinct to throw my whole self at the opportunity. To overcompensate. To show her, see, I'm still here. I'll drop anything for you. But I didn't. Not this time. Instead, I replied simply, I'd love to. Just tell me what you're most proud of, so I know where to linger. She sent back a smiling emoji and a photo of a charcoal sketch titled Things Unsaid. I stared at that title, and I knew she got it. The show was on a Tuesday night. No performances, just a display. When I got there, she walked up to me first. Didn't wait for me to find her, didn't hide behind a crowd. She gave me a half hug, the kind she reserved for people she trusted. This one's mine, she said, leading me to the corner. It was a stark drawing. A girl with her mouth stitched shut, eyes wide open. Around her were little scraps of paper, all torn at the edges, each with single words like truth, dad, stage, sorry. I felt something in my throat, but I swallowed it. You're not subtle, are you? I joked softly. She smiled. Not anymore. We stood in front of that drawing for a long time, not saying much, but feeling everything. Later that night, I sat at home and thought about the man I'd been before that first text. Hopeful, eager, naive, maybe, willing to believe that showing up was enough. But I'd learned something since then. Showing up matters, but staying whole while doing it, that matters more. Amanda still played her games. I knew that wouldn't stop, but I'd stopped playing mine. The game where I pretended not to be hurt, not to be affected, just to seem reasonable. Now, I told the truth. I set boundaries. I showed up with open eyes. And maybe, just maybe, Lily was doing the same. Sometimes love means showing up. But other times, it means walking away from the lies people ask you to accept in silence. If you've ever been made to feel like a visitor in your own child's life, I see you. Tell me, what would you have done in my place? Let's talk about what real parenting looks like when honesty and boundaries finally collide.